So hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and I'm back with a new video. Now today we will be learning about the third act, scene 1 of Julius Caesar. Now it is in your syllabus for ICSE Class 10 boards. So let's start. So in Julius Caesar Act 3 scene 1, we first need to know the scene setting. Now the place is the capital, Rome, and we have the occasion of Caesar coming towards the Senate to be crowned as the new ruler. Now this scene is the most important scene in this entire play because it is the turning point where Caesar gets assassinated by the conspirators led by Cassius and Brutus. Okay, so this assassination was already prophesied by the soothsayer, and a warning was given to Caesar about the Ides of March. Now let's go ahead. Now let us have a summary of the scene. Now Caesar enters the capital surrounded by senators, conspirators, and Mark Antony. Artemidorus tries to hand Caesar a letter warning him about the conspiracy, but Caesar dismisses it, saying that personal matters can wait. Now, this actually shows a bit of arrogance from Caesar's part. He was confident enough that nothing can go wrong with him when he is about to get crowned. The conspirators approach Caesar pretending to plead for the repeal of Cimber's banishment. Now Caesar refuses firmly, declaring himself as unchanging as the northern star. Now this particular arrogance seals his fate. If he had paid any heed to the request of the conspirators about the repeal of Cimber's banishment, it might still have saved him. Now we come to the actual assassination. Now Casca was the first one to stab Caesar. So Casca gives the first stab, followed by other conspirators. When Brutus stabs him, Caesar is deeply shocked and utters the famous line, "Et tu, Brute." Then fall, Caesar. He dies at the base of Pompey's statue. Now it's pretty ironical and symbolic that Caesar fell at Pompey's statue, whose descendants were defeated by Caesar himself at the beginning of the play. After the assassination, Brutus gives a speech explaining that Caesar was killed for the good of Rome, not out of hatred. Antony arrives and cleverly pretends to support the conspirators. He requests permission to speak at Caesar's funeral and is allowed to do so under strict conditions. Now this was the masterstroke by Mark Antony because he wanted to discredit the conspirators and bring the emotions of the Romans in favor of Caesar. Once left alone with Caesar's body, Antony reveals his true feelings in a powerful soliloquy. He vows revenge and predicts civil war in Rome. The scene ends with the conspirators misjudging Antony's intelligence and intentions. Now this is the starting of the downfall of the conspirators. Okay, so here the scene ends. Now we will have a look at the significance of the scene. Okay, so this scene can be termed as the climax of the play because the protagonist, the titular character Julius Caesar, is killed in this particular scene. Now it also shows Caesar's tragic flaw, his arrogance. This arrogance was the reason of his downfall. Then it reveals Brutus' moral weakness. He was unable to judge the conspirators and his own reasoning for killing Caesar. It also introduces Antony as a master politician, and as the play goes ahead, he will be the prime manipulator of the events. And finally marks the fall of the Republic into chaos, as the conspirators will be unable to control the minds and the emotions of the Romans, and they will be completely manipulated by Mark Antony's oratory skill, political acumen, and the skill to gauge the mindset of the public. Now let's have a look at the different characters and let us analyze their traits. First we start with Julius Caesar. Now he is arrogant and overconfident, which is a trait that can be seen from scene 1. He ignores the warnings, particularly the one given by his wife and Artemidorus. and he believes that he is invincible, that is, no one can defeat him. But ultimately, his death evokes pity and fear, so he can be termed as a tragic hero. Though personally speaking, as for me, I would say that the tragic hero in this play was Brutus, because his reason for assassination of Julius Caesar was not completely selfish. It was idealistic, it was nationalistic, it was not for selfish reason. And for with that we come to Brutus' character. He acts out of idealism, not hatred, believes murder can be justified morally. He is politically naive, which also can be the reason for his self-righteousness that made him kill his own dear friend. And ultimately he misjudges Antony completely. He was incapable of understanding the level of manipulation that could be done by Mark Antony with his speech. So he allows him to speak. It was his primary prerogative that made Mark Antony able to give the speech to the Romans. Now comes the most important character that will lead this play forward, Mark Antony. Now he is extremely intelligent and manipulative, as I have already discussed before. Now he pretends loyalty to conspirators, but his true emotions reveal in his soliloquy, where he says that he will be avenging the death of Julius Caesar. Now he emerges as the future leader, so he will be the driving force against the conspirators, and he will take revenge of Caesar's death. Now the primary antagonist, Cassius. He is practical and cunning. He wants Antony killed but is overruled by Brutus, and he is correct in his political judgment because he was the one who guessed that Mark Antony could be a problem in future, which ultimately was true. It was Mark Antony who brought the downfall of all the conspirators. So Cassius was one of the most intelligent and practical character in this particular play. Now we will talk about the themes highlighted. The first theme is betrayal. Caesar was betrayed by his closest friend, who was Brutus. Now Brutus betrayed Caesar. This was something that Caesar could not even imagine. Caesar considered Brutus as his most loyal ally, but it was Brutus who stabbed him, and that's why he just uttered the word et to Brutus. Next is power and ambition. Now there was different interpretation of power and ambition in this particular scene. Brutus considered the ambition of Caesar as harmful for his Rome, whereas Caesar tried to use his ambition to get power and usher Rome into a new era. Then comes idealism and practical politics, or we should say idealism versus practical politics. See, Brutus was working on idealism. He believed that Rome is above all, and he did not even hesitate to kill his own dear friend for the benefit of Rome. Whereas practical politics was not his cup of tea. Practical politics was better understood by Mark Antony and Cassius. Now next comes fate versus free will. As we have already read in the previous acts that the soothsayer had predicted that on Ides of March Caesar had to be careful, and even Artemidorus also tried to warn Caesar about his fate. Yet Caesar, ignoring all such warnings even from his wife, he went to the capital and was assassinated as the outcome. Finally, we have also the theme of rhetoric and manipulation. Now, these two were done by different characters at different stages during this act, mostly by the conspirators to get Brutus into their side and also to manipulate Caesar to capital by misinterpreting the dream of Caesar's wife Caponia. Now let us talk about the quotations, the important quotations that are required for the answers. Now as you know that for writing literature answers in ICSE boards paper, we have to provide the quotations, the important ones which are useful to get marks in the answer. So here are the important quotes from this scene. First one is, beware the Ides of March. It shows ignored warnings and fate at work. This was just ignored by Julius Caesar. Next, I am constant as the northern star. This reveals Caesar's arrogance and tragic flaw. Okay. Now, next is et tu Brute, then fall Caesar. This is the most famous quotation from this play and obviously from this scene. It gives the peak of betrayal, emotional collapse of Caesar. He was not expecting Brutus to betray him. He was completely devastated when he saw that Brutus also stabbed him along with the conspirators, a person whom he considered his friend, his brother. Next up, ambitions should be made of sterner stuff. This is Caesar who dismisses the conspirators' plea. Then cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war. This is Antony predicting civil war and revenge after the death of Caesar. Finally, this was the noblest Roman of them all. This is Antony indirectly criticizing the conspirators, which was used later but rooted here, and it was the seed of the rebellion that was about to follow against the conspirators. Now here are some exam oriented questions that you can practice at home. Okay, these are the 2 to 3 marks questions. Questions like these would come from this act. Okay, questions like, why does Caesar compare himself to the Northern Star? Or what role does Casca play in the assassination? Why does Caesar refuse to read Artemidorus' letter? What conditions are imposed on Antony before he speaks at the funeral, etc. So practice these questions, the answers of whom can be easily made from the summary and notes that were given earlier. Then comes the long questions, and these will have 8 to 10 marks. Questions like, why is Act 3 Scene 1 considered the turning point of the play? You would have seen that I already mentioned it in the summary portion. Then examine Antony's intelligence and foresight in Act 3 Scene 1. How does Shakespeare present Brutus as a tragic hero in this scene? See, this also was discussed by me, that the tragic hero in this play was Brutus. Show how Caesar's tragic flaw leads to his death in Act 3 Scene 1. Here we would talk about his arrogance and his way of not listening to others. Okay. All these questions can be answered if you follow the summary properly. Now, there are extract questions as well. Extract from, like, I'm constant as the Northern Star. Then et tu Brute. Then the Mark Antony's soliloquy after the murder. In all these extract based questions, you have to write it by using these sketch points, like the context, the speaker's intention, the dramatic irony, and the character traits of the speaker. If you follow these, you can easily write the answer and get the full marks for it. Now finally, I will share with you some board exam writing tips. Now, to have full marks on your answers, you should always link answer to the themes. Use at least 2 to 3 quotations in long answers and mentions the keywords like tragic hero, climax, irony, etc. And avoid retelling the story. Like when you are answering, do not just write the story from the beginning to the end. You just analyze the answer and then write what you have understood from it. Okay, never write the entire story as your answer. It will never fetch you the marks that you are seeking for. Anyways, that's it, friends. So I hope this video has helped you in your pursue for getting good marks in your ICSE English Literature examination. That's all, folks. Hope this video will help you in your preparation for your ICSE boards exam, and keep watching, keep learning. If you like the content, then subscribe and share it with your friends. So see you. I'll be here again with a new video and with some more content for your exam preparation. See you. Goodbye.